Why everything feels wrong and ancient philosophy knows why. You wake up with that familiar knot in your stomach. Another day of endless notifications, impossible deadlines, and that nagging feeling that no matter how much you achieve, it's never quite enough. Your Instagram feed shows everyone living their best life while you're barely holding yours together. The anxiety about tomorrow drowns out any peace you might find today. Sound familiar? Here's what's fascinating. 2,000 years ago, Roman emperors and Greek slaves faced the exact same feelings. The technology was different, but the human condition? Identical. And these ancient philosophers discovered something profound about why we suffer, and more importantly, how we create our own misery. The Stoics called the good life eudaimonia, a state of human flourishing that comes from living in harmony with our true nature. But here's the plot twist: most of us are doing the exact opposite. We're following a blueprint for misery without even realizing it. Marcus Aurelius, who literally ruled the known world, wrote in his private journal about the same struggles you face. He discovered that happiness isn't about having more, controlling more, or avoiding pain. It's about something radically different, something the Stoics called virtue. Now, before you roll your eyes at another self-help philosophy, understand this: Stoicism isn't about suppressing emotions or pretending problems don't exist. It's about recognizing the specific mistakes we make that guarantee unhappiness. The Stoics identified these mistakes as vices, the opposite of virtue, and they're shockingly relevant to modern life. Think about it. Why do millionaires still feel empty? Why do people with perfect relationships still feel anxious? Why does getting everything you want often leave you more miserable than before? The Stoics had an answer: because we're making 7 critical mistakes that sabotage any chance at real fulfillment. These aren't abstract philosophical concepts. They're practical errors in thinking that you probably made before lunch today. From the way you scroll through your phone to avoid uncomfortable feelings, to the lies you tell yourself about what you really need to be happy, these mistakes create a prison of misery that no amount of success can unlock. What makes this ancient wisdom so powerful is its simplicity. The Stoics understood that virtue, living according to wisdom, justice, courage, and moderation, doesn't require any special circumstances. You don't need to be rich, beautiful, or lucky. A minimum wage worker can live more virtuously than a billionaire. A person facing terminal illness can achieve more eudaimonia than someone in perfect health. Over the next 7 sections, we're going to explore each mistake in detail. You'll see how anxiety about the future robs you of present peace, how your addiction to instant gratification creates long-term suffering, and why trying to control everything guarantees you'll control nothing. More importantly, you'll understand how these ancient insights apply directly to your modern struggles. Ready to discover why everything feels wrong? Let's start with the mistake that's probably affecting you right this moment. 1. When your anxiety won't stop, the foolishness of future obsession. It's 3 a.m. and you're wide awake, mind racing through tomorrow's presentation, next month's bills, and whether you'll ever afford retirement. Your heart pounds as you mentally rehearse conversations that haven't happened, solving problems that don't exist yet. By morning, you're exhausted from fighting battles in a future that may never arrive. This is the first and perhaps most devastating mistake the Stoics identified: the foolishness of future obsession. The ancient Stoics had a name for this self-inflicted torture. They called it a fundamental misunderstanding of time and control. Epictetus, who went from slave to renowned philosopher, put it bluntly: when I see an anxious person, I ask myself, what do they want? For if a person wasn't wanting something outside of their own control, why would they be stricken by anxiety? Think about your own anxiety for a moment. Maybe it's about your job security in an uncertain economy. Perhaps it's whether your kids will get into good colleges, or if your relationship will last. Notice something? Every single worry is about something you cannot directly control. You're essentially trying to arm wrestle the universe, and the universe always wins. Here's where it gets interesting. The Stoics weren't saying don't plan for the future. Marcus Aurelius ran an empire. He definitely had to think ahead. The difference is that he understood the boundary between influence and control. You can influence outcomes through your actions today, but you cannot control what actually happens tomorrow. This distinction changes everything. Consider Sarah, a marketing manager in Chicago, lying awake worrying about layoffs. She spends hours each night imagining scenarios. What she'll say to her landlord, how she'll explain it to her parents, whether she'll have to move back home. The cruel irony? Her anxiety-driven insomnia makes her perform worse at work, potentially creating the very situation she fears. This is what the Stoics meant by foolishness, not stupidity, but actions that work against our own interests. The modern world amplifies this ancient problem exponentially. Our smartphones deliver a constant stream of future threats. Climate change, economic collapse, political upheaval. We're biologically wired to scan for danger, but now we have access to every possible danger on Earth 24/7. No wonder anxiety disorders have skyrocketed. We're using Stone Age brains to process Space Age problems. But here's what the Stoics understood that we've forgotten. The future literally doesn't exist. It's a mental construct, a story we tell ourselves. Seneca wrote, "Every new thing excites the mind, but a mind that seeks truth turns from the new and superficial to the old and profound." The profound truth? Only this moment is real. Only in this moment can you take action. This doesn't mean becoming passive or careless. It means recognizing what the Stoics called the discipline of desire, wanting only what is up to us. Your actions, your choices, your responses to whatever life throws at you, these belong to you. Everything else, as Epictetus taught, not mine to control, therefore not mine to worry about. The practical implications are transformative. Instead of lying awake worrying about losing your job, you focus on doing excellent work today. Instead of anxiously wondering if your partner will leave you, you concentrate on being a loving, present partner right now. Instead of panicking about your health in old age, you make healthy choices this moment. Marcus Aurelius, facing plagues, wars, and political betrayal, wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." This wasn't escapism, it was strategy. He knew that all power exists in the present moment. Yesterday is memory, tomorrow is imagination, but right now is where life happens. The foolishness extends beyond mere worry. It includes what psychologists now call arrival fallacy, the belief that happiness waits in the future. When I get promoted, when I find the right person, when I have enough saved. This thinking guarantees misery because even when you arrive at these destinations, you immediately create new future conditions for happiness. John, a software developer in Seattle, spent 5 years saying he'd be happy once he worked for a major tech company. He sacrificed relationships, health, and present joy for this future goal. When he finally got hired at his dream company, the happiness lasted about 2 weeks. Then he started thinking, I'll be happy when I make senior developer. The cycle never ends because the problem isn't the achievement. It's the belief that happiness exists in the future. The Stoics offer a radical alternative. Eudaimonia is available right now, regardless of circumstances. It comes from acting with virtue in this moment. As Epictetus taught, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. When you stop wanting the future to be different than it will be, anxiety loses its grip. This doesn't mean giving up ambition or becoming complacent. It means pursuing goals without being enslaved by them. You can work toward a better future while being content with the present. You can prepare for challenges without being paralyzed by them. You can have preferences without making your peace dependent on them. The antidote to future obsession is present action. Every moment you spend anxiously projecting into tomorrow is a moment stolen from today's potential. The Stoics knew this truth. Life is not a dress rehearsal for some future performance. This is it. This moment, with all its imperfections, is your life. As we'll see in the next section, when we can't bear the present moment, we often escape into something equally destructive. The endless scroll of instant gratification. 2. Why you can't stop scrolling, the trap of instant gratification. You tell yourself you'll check Instagram for just 5 minutes. 3 hours later, you're watching a stranger's vacation highlights from 2019, your thumb mechanically swiping through an endless feed of lives that seem better than yours. You feel empty, anxious, and somehow more disconnected than when you started. Welcome to the second Stoic mistake, choosing fleeting pleasures over lasting fulfillment. The ancient Stoics would have immediately recognized our digital addiction for what it is, a sophisticated version of the same trap they warned about 2 millennia ago. Seneca wrote, "Every new thing excites the mind, but a mind that seeks truth turns from the new and superficial to the old and profound." Replace new thing with notification and you have a perfect diagnosis of our modern condition. Here's the brutal truth, that dopamine hit you get from each like, each new video, each shocking headline, it's designed to keep you hooked. Tech companies employ neuroscientists and behavioral psychologists to make their apps as addictive as possible. You're not weak for falling into this trap, you're fighting against billions of dollars of research designed to override your better judgment. But the Stoics understood something deeper about pleasure-seeking that modern science is only now catching up to. Marcus Aurelius observed how much trouble he avoids who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does, but only to what he does himself. In other words, the constant comparison that social media enables is a form of self-torture that the wise person avoids. Consider Michael, a financial analyst in New York who starts each morning by checking his phone. Email, news, social media, by the time he gets out of bed, he's already absorbed 50 reasons to feel inadequate, angry, or afraid. He arrives at work mentally exhausted, having given the best hours of his attention to an algorithm designed to upset him. This is what the Stoics called foolishness, not intellectual stupidity, but choosing actions that harm rather than help us. The mechanism is insidious. Unlike the delayed gratification of building a skill, maintaining a relationship, or creating something meaningful, digital pleasures offer immediate rewards with zero effort. Scroll, tap, swipe, instant novelty. But as Epictetus warned, no one is free who is not master of himself. When you can't go 10 minutes without checking your phone, you're enslaved to a device. This extends far beyond social media. Think about binge-watching Netflix until 3 a.m. when you have work the next day. Or ordering takeout for the 4th night this week instead of cooking something healthy. Or buying another gadget on Amazon that you don't need because the add to cart button provides that quick hit of acquisition pleasure. Each choice prioritizes immediate gratification over long-term well-being. The Stoics had a term for this, passion, not in the romantic sense, but meaning any excessive impulse that overrides reason. Chrysippus, an early Stoic philosopher, defined passion as an excessive impulse that disobeys the dictates of reason. Sound familiar? It's exactly what happens when you promise yourself just one more episode or I'll stop scrolling at midnight. What makes this particularly destructive in modern times is the sheer availability of instant pleasures. A Roman citizen might have faced temptation at the occasional feast or festival. You face it every second of every day in your pocket, optimized by artificial intelligence to be maximally irresistible. It's like trying to diet while living inside a candy store. The real damage isn't just wasted time, it's what psychologists call hedonic adaptation. The more instant pleasure you consume, the less satisfying it becomes. Lisa, a graphic designer in Los Angeles, noticed she needed increasingly extreme content to feel anything. What started as funny cat videos escalated to outrage-bait political content, conspiracy theories, and shock videos. Her baseline for stimulation kept rising while her capacity for simple pleasures, a sunset, a good conversation, a home-cooked meal, atrophied. Marcus Aurelius understood this pattern. Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. But when we're constantly seeking external stimulation, we lose touch with that internal source of contentment. We become like addicts, needing ever larger doses to feel normal. The Stoics offer a radical solution: voluntary discomfort. Seneca regularly practiced poverty, sleeping on the floor, and eating simple food. Not as punishment, but as inoculation against the fear of losing comfort. Set aside a certain number of days, during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, "Is this the condition that I feared?" In modern terms, this might mean leaving your phone in another room while you sleep, taking regular digital Sabbaths where you disconnect entirely, choosing to be bored rather than immediately reaching for stimulation, reading a book instead of scrolling through summaries, having a real conversation instead of texting. The point isn't to become a digital hermit. It's to reclaim agency over your attention and choices. As Epictetus taught, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid with regard to external things. In our context, this means being willing to miss out on trending topics, viral videos, and the latest online drama. The payoff is profound. When you break the cycle of instant gratification, you rediscover what the Stoics called ataraxia, a state of tranquil satisfaction that comes from within. You stop needing constant external validation. You can sit with your own thoughts without panic. You can enjoy simple pleasures without needing them to be extreme or novel. This connects directly to virtue because choosing long-term well-being over short-term pleasure is an act of wisdom and self-discipline. Every time you choose to engage with something meaningful rather than merely stimulating, you're building what the Stoics called character. You're becoming the kind of person who can face life's real challenges without needing to escape into digital fantasies. As we'll explore next, this inability to face reality honestly leads to an even more destructive pattern: the lies we tell ourselves and others to avoid discomfort. 3. The real reason people can't trust you: when greed becomes your identity. Your coworker asks if you finished the report. Almost done, you say, knowing you haven't started. Your partner questions an unexpected charge on the credit card. Must be a mistake, you deflect, hiding another impulsive purchase. Small lies, you tell yourself. Harmless white lies. But here's what the Stoics understood: every dishonesty is a brick in the wall between you and genuine human connection. This is the third devastating mistake: letting greed and self-interest corrupt your integrity. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the ancient world, wrote something remarkable: injustice is a kind of blasphemy. Nature designed rational beings for each other's sake, to help, not harm, one another as they deserve. To transgress its will, then, is to blaspheme against the oldest of the gods. Think about that. The Emperor of Rome called dishonesty blasphemy, not against some deity, but against human nature itself. The Stoics saw greed as more than just wanting money. They understood it as an extreme self-preservation instinct gone haywire. It's the voice that whispers, you need more than you actually do. Take it even if it hurts others. Protect yourself at all costs. This voice speaks in every small dishonesty, every cut corner, every betrayal of trust. Take Jennifer, a sales manager in Dallas who started padding her expense reports. Just small amounts at first, an extra $20 here, a fictional client dinner there. She rationalized it: the company underpays her anyway, executives waste millions, what's a few $100s? But something shifted. She found herself lying more easily, not just about expenses but about sales figures, client feedback, and team performance. The greed for a little extra money had metastasized into a greed for appearing successful at any cost. This is what the Stoics meant when they said vice corrupts the soul. It's not mystical, it's psychological. Every lie requires you to remember what you said, to whom, and when. Every deception creates anxiety about being discovered. Every act of greed isolates you from authentic relationships because you can never be fully yourself around people you've deceived. Seneca wrote, every new thing excites the mind, but a mind that seeks truth turns from the new and superficial to the old and profound. The profound truth here? Trust, once broken, is nearly impossible to rebuild. And in our interconnected world, reputation damage spreads at digital speed. One screenshot of your dishonesty can destroy years of relationship building in seconds. But here's where modern life makes this ancient vice particularly toxic. We live in what researchers call a low-trust society. Everyone assumes everyone else is lying: politicians, corporations, media, even friends. This cynicism becomes self-fulfilling. If everyone's dishonest, why should I be different? If the system is rigged, why not rig it in my favor? The Stoics would answer, because injustice doesn't just harm others, it destroys you from within. Consider Robert, a contractor in Phoenix, who built his business on underbidding projects, then adding mysterious, unexpected costs once work began. He justified it as business strategy. But notice what happened. He could never relax, always worried clients would compare notes. He couldn't enjoy his success because it felt hollow. His children learned to lie by watching him. His marriage crumbled under the weight of financial deceptions. Epictetus taught, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. This isn't about poverty, it's about breaking greed's grip on your decision-making. When you genuinely believe you have enough, you stop needing to take from others. When you're not desperately grasping for more, you can afford to be honest. The modern manifestation of greed extends beyond money. There's greed for attention, exaggerating stories to seem more interesting. Greed for sympathy, playing victim when you're actually at fault. Greed for status, name-dropping, and humble bragging. Greed for comfort, letting others do your work while taking credit. Each form requires deception, and each deception erodes trust. What makes this particularly insidious is how we rationalize it. Everyone does it. It's not really hurting anyone. I deserve this. They would do the same to me. But as Marcus Aurelius observed, what brings no benefit to the hive brings none to the bee. Your dishonesty doesn't just harm others, it creates a world where you yourself can trust no one. The workplace becomes a special breeding ground for this vice. Sarah, a project manager in Seattle, watches her colleague take credit for her ideas in meetings. Instead of addressing it directly, she starts doing the same to her junior staff. The poison spreads. Soon, the entire team operates on suspicion and self-protection rather than collaboration. Projects fail. Good people leave. All because greed for recognition overcame the courage to be honest. The Stoics offer a radical alternative, radical honesty combined with genuine concern for collective well-being. This doesn't mean brutal honesty that hurts others. It means what Buddhists call right speech, truthful, necessary, and kind. It means having difficult conversations rather than comfortable lies. It means admitting mistakes rather than covering them up. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What is not good for the swarm is not good for the bee." This isn't idealistic philosophy, it's practical wisdom. When you build relationships on honesty, you sleep better. When you earn success legitimately, you can enjoy it fully. When you help others succeed, they help you in return. Trust becomes your currency, worth more than any amount gained through deception. The path back from greed-driven dishonesty starts small. Return the extra change. Admit when you don't know something. Give credit where due. Keep promises, especially small ones. Each honest act rebuilds your integrity like physical therapy for a damaged soul. You'll find that people respond to authenticity with relief, finally, someone they can trust. This connects to the broader Stoic framework because justice, treating others fairly, is one of the 4 cardinal virtues. You cannot achieve eudaimonia while carrying the burden of deception. You cannot flourish while constantly watching your back. You cannot build meaningful relationships on a foundation of lies. As we'll see next, this pattern of self-protection through dishonesty connects to another vice, the cowardice that keeps us from engaging authentically with life's challenges. For what happens when you never take risks, the hidden cost of playing safe? The job posting sits in your bookmarks for 3 months. Every day, you tell yourself you'll apply tomorrow. The conversation you need to have with your partner gets postponed another week, another month, another year. That business idea remains a fantasy you nurture but never birth. You're not failing, you're not even trying. And that, the Stoics would say, is the most profound failure of all. This is the 4th mistake, choosing the familiar misery of inaction over the uncertain possibility of growth. The Stoics had a penetrating insight about cowardice. It wasn't just about physical bravery in battle. It was about the moral courage to engage with life fully, to stand for principles, to risk comfort for growth. As Seneca wrote, it is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor. But there's a deeper poverty than material lack, the poverty of unexpressed potential, of dreams that die in darkness because we're too afraid to bring them to light. Consider David, a talented programmer in Boston who's been thinking about starting his own software company for 7 years. He has the skills, the ideas, even some interested investors. But every time he gets close to taking the leap, fear whispers its familiar refrain. What if you fail? What about health insurance? What will people think? So he stays in his soul-crushing corporate job, each day a small death of possibility. This modern cowardice wears many masks. It's the relationship you stay in because being alone seems scarier than being unhappy. It's the toxic workplace you endure because job hunting feels overwhelming. It's the health problems you ignore because facing them means acknowledging mortality. It's every time you choose the devil you know over the angel you don't. Marcus Aurelius, who faced plagues, invasions, and betrayals, wrote, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being. What do I have to complain of if I'm going to do what I was born for, the things I was brought into the world to do?" Notice he doesn't promise it will be easy or comfortable. He promises it will be meaningful. The tragedy of cowardice isn't just what we don't do, it's who we don't become. Every time you avoid a necessary confrontation, you become a little more conflict-averse. Every time you don't speak up against injustice, you become a little more complicit. Every time you choose safety over growth, your world shrinks a little more. Rachel, a nurse in Chicago, watches her supervisor bully younger staff members. She knows she should report it, but she's 2 years from retirement. Why rock the boat now, she thinks. But here's what happens. She starts avoiding the break room to not witness the abuse. She feels sick every Sunday night. She snaps at her family, carrying the weight of her silence home. Her cowardice doesn't keep her safe, it poisons everything. Epictetus, who knew about courage from his years as a slave, taught, "No one is free who is not master of himself." But mastery requires facing what we fear. It means having the difficult conversation, taking the calculated risk. Standing up when sitting down would be easier. It means choosing discomfort with purpose over comfort without meaning. The modern world makes cowardice particularly tempting. We can ghost instead of having breakup conversations. We can send emails instead of having face-to-face discussions. We can scroll through other people's lives instead of building our own. We can Amazon Prime our way out of leaving the house. Every convenience can become a crutch, every comfort a cage. But here's what the Stoics understood: regret weighs more than failure. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "At some point you have to recognize what world it is that you belong to, what power rules it, and from what source you spring." That source, according to Stoic philosophy, is rational, social, and meant for action. We're not designed to hide, we're designed to engage. The research backs this up. Bronnie Ware, who worked with dying patients, found their biggest regret was, "I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me." The second was, "I wish I hadn't worked so hard, often at jobs they stayed in out of fear." Cowardice doesn't just steal our present, it haunts our final moments. Consider Tom, a middle manager in Denver who discovers his company is dumping toxic waste. He has evidence, knows the right authorities to contact, but also has a mortgage and 3 kids. The Stoics wouldn't judge his fear, it's natural. But they would ask, what kind of world are you creating for those 3 kids? What lesson are you teaching them about integrity? This is where Stoic courage differs from recklessness. It's not about being fearless, it's about acting despite fear when virtue demands it. As Seneca observed, every new thing excites the mind, but a mind that seeks truth turns from the new and superficial to the old and profound. The profound truth? Courage is a muscle. Use it and it grows. Neglect it and it atrophies. The practical applications are everywhere. Having honest performance conversations instead of letting resentment build. Leaving relationships that have run their course instead of settling. Starting the creative project instead of waiting for permission. Speaking your truth in meetings instead of staying silent. Pursuing meaningful work instead of just collecting paychecks. Each act of courage makes the next one easier. Lisa, a teacher in Portland, finally confronted her principal about unfair policies. It was terrifying, but something shifted. She started speaking up in other areas of her life. She left a toxic friendship. She started the graduate program she'd been postponing. One act of courage created momentum. The Stoics knew that cowardice compounds. When we don't stand against small injustices, we won't stand against large ones. When we don't take small risks, we won't take necessary ones. When we don't have minor difficult conversations, major ones become impossible. Life becomes a series of retreats until we're backed into a corner of our own making. But courage compounds too. Each time you choose action over avoidance, you build what the Stoics called strength of character. You become someone who can be counted on by others and by yourself. You develop what modern psychology calls self-efficacy, the belief that you can handle whatever comes. As we'll explore next, this pattern of avoidance often leads to another destructive behavior, seeking fulfillment through endless consumption rather than meaningful action. 5. Why more never feels like enough, the exhaustion of endless want. The packages arrive daily. Another gadget, another outfit, another solution to a problem you didn't know you had until Instagram told you. Your credit card statement is a monument to attempts at buying happiness. Yet that hollow feeling persists. If anything, it grows with each purchase. This is the fifth Stoic mistake, believing that fulfillment lies in accumulation rather than moderation. The ancients called it intemperance. We call it normal life. Seneca, one of Rome's wealthiest men, understood this paradox intimately. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor. He wasn't preaching from poverty, he knew the weight of wealth, the burden of abundance. He saw how the more people had, the more they needed. Not wanted, needed. As if their very survival depended on the next acquisition. Consider Amanda, a marketing executive in San Francisco whose apartment tells a story of endless seeking. The Peloton gathering dust, the juicer used twice, the meditation app subscription she never opens. Each purchase promised transformation. Each delivered only the brief high of acquisition, followed by the familiar emptiness. She makes six figures but lives paycheck to paycheck, not from necessity but from an insatiable hunger that no amount of consumption can fill. The Stoics would recognize this immediately as a misunderstanding of what they called preferred indifference. Yes, certain external things, health, resources, relationships, are naturally preferable to their opposites. But the key word is indifferent. They don't touch the core of human flourishing. They're the seasoning, not the meal. When we mistake them for the main course, we starve while feasting. Modern consumer culture weaponizes this confusion. Edward Bernays, the father of public relations, literally wrote the playbook on making people want things they don't need by linking products to deep emotional needs. That car isn't transportation, it's freedom. That watch isn't a timepiece, it's status. That skincare routine isn't hygiene, it's self-love. We're not buying products, we're buying promises of who we could become. But Marcus Aurelius saw through this illusion millennia ago. Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. This isn't poverty worship, it's recognition that happiness is an inside job. No external acquisition can fill an internal void. It's like trying to satisfy hunger by buying cookbooks. The damage of intemperance extends far beyond personal finances. Jake, a software developer in Austin, finds himself in an endless cycle: work overtime to afford a lifestyle, need a lifestyle to cope with work stress, need more work to afford more lifestyle. He's running on a treadmill that gets faster the harder he runs. His relationships suffer, he's too busy earning to spend time with people. His health deteriorates, no time for exercise between work and shopping. His sense of self erodes, he knows himself only through his possessions. Epictetus offered a diagnostic question: wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. But how do we develop a few wants in a culture designed to multiply them? Every algorithm knows your weaknesses. Every ad targets your insecurities. Every influencer showcases a life that seems just one purchase away from yours. The ancient Stoics practiced voluntary hardship not as punishment but as liberation. Seneca would spend days living like a pauper, sleeping on the floor, and eating simple food. Not to suffer, but to discover that he could be content without luxury. Is this the condition that I feared? He would ask. The answer was always no. The fear of losing comfort was worse than actually losing it. Modern research confirms this ancient wisdom. The hedonic treadmill ensures that no matter how much we acquire, our happiness returns to baseline. Lottery winners aren't significantly happier than others after the initial excitement fades. Meanwhile, studies on voluntary simplicity show that people who consciously choose less report higher life satisfaction. They've discovered what the Stoics knew: enough is abundance when you know it's enough. But intemperance isn't just about material goods. It's the endless scroll through dating apps, never satisfied with matches because someone better might be one swipe away. It's binge-watching entire series in weekends, consuming stories rather than living your own. It's the bottomless appetite for validation through likes and comments. We're not just materially intemperate, we're experientially gluttonous. Maria, a physician in Miami, realized her intemperance wasn't about shopping, it was about achievement. Another certification, another degree, another accolade. She collected accomplishments like others collect shoes, but the satisfaction lasted about as long. Each success only highlighted the next thing she didn't have. She was exhausted not from work but from want. The Stoics understood that intemperance is often misdirected seeking. We want a connection, but we buy followers. We want purpose, but purchase productivity apps. We want peace, but we acquire meditation cushions. We're using the wrong tools for the right desires. It's like trying to cure loneliness by buying a bigger house. You just end up lonely in more rooms. The social cost is staggering. Our intemperance requires others' exploitation. Fast fashion depends on sweatshops. Cheap electronics require brutal mining conditions. Same-day delivery demands warehouse workers skip bathroom breaks. Seneca wrote, "Every new thing excites the mind, but a mind that seeks truth turns from the new and superficial to the old and profound." The profound truth? Our excess creates others' suffering. The path out isn't asceticism but intentionality. Before each purchase, ask, am I buying this thing or buying into a fantasy? Will this genuinely improve my life or just temporarily quiet my anxiety? Am I filling a real need or feeding an artificial want? The Stoics called this discipline of desire, not suppression but education of our wants. Start small. Unsubscribe from promotional emails. Implement a waiting period before purchases. Practice gratitude for what you have before seeking what you don't. Notice how marketing makes you feel inadequate, then offers to sell you adequacy. Recognize that enough is not a number but a decision. The paradox is that when you stop seeking fulfillment in more, you find it in enough. When you cease chasing the next thing, you can enjoy the present thing. When you quit trying to buy happiness, you discover you've been standing in it all along. As Marcus Aurelius knew, very little is needed to make a happy life. As we'll see next, these personal vices don't exist in isolation. They create ripple effects that damage not just ourselves but everyone around us. 6. How your misery infects everyone around you, the ripple effect of vice. You snap at your partner because work stressed you out. They carry that hurt to their office and criticize a colleague unfairly. That colleague goes home and yells at their kids. Those kids bully someone at school. The misery spreads like a virus, each transmission creating new infections. This is the sixth devastating truth the Stoics understood. Your personal vices never stay personal. They ripple outward, poisoning wells you'll never drink from, hurting people you'll never meet. Marcus Aurelius captured this interconnectedness perfectly. What is not good for the swarm is not good for the bee. He wasn't being poetic, he was describing reality. We're social creatures living in an interconnected web where every action creates reactions, every choice has consequences, and every vice spreads its particular poison through the human network. Take Brian, a sales director in Seattle whose anxiety about hitting quarterly targets makes him micromanage his team obsessively. His constant hovering and criticism create a culture of fear. His best performers start leaving. The remaining team members become risk-averse, second-guessing every decision. They take this stress home, snapping at spouses, neglecting children, and self-medicating with alcohol. Their families suffer. Their children act out at school. Teachers burn out. The ripple spreads. The Stoics identified four main vices: foolishness, injustice, cowardice, and intemperance, not as isolated character flaws but as corrupting forces that damage the entire human ecosystem. When you act foolishly, you make decisions that create chaos for others. When you're unjust, you force others to live in a world where fairness doesn't matter. When you're cowardly, you abandon others who need someone to stand with them. When you're intemperate, your excess demands others' deprivation. Seneca wrote, "Vices beset us and surround us on every side, and they do not permit us to rise anew and lift up our eyes for the discernment of truth, but they keep us down when once they have overwhelmed us and we are chained to lust." Notice the plural, us. Vice doesn't chain individuals, it creates chain gangs where everyone's misery reinforces everyone else's. Consider how workplace toxicity spreads. Jennifer starts hoarding information to maintain job security. Her teammates can't complete projects effectively without that information, so they start playing politics to protect themselves. Soon, the entire department operates on suspicion and self-protection. Productivity plummets. Good people leave. The company culture rots. Customers receive worse service. The economy suffers incrementally. All from one person's insecurity-driven vice. The digital age amplifies these ripple effects exponentially. Your angry tweet doesn't just express frustration, it contributes to an atmosphere of rage that affects thousands. Your dishonest review of a restaurant doesn't just mislead potential customers, it might destroy a family's livelihood. Your cowardly silence when witnessing online bullying doesn't just fail the victim, it emboldens bullies everywhere. Epictetus understood this deeply. What disturbs people's minds is not events, but their judgments on events. When we judge from a place of vice, fear, greed, anger, excess, we create disturbances that ripple through the social fabric. Our distorted judgments become others' reality. Our internal corruption becomes external contamination. The family unit shows this most starkly. David's intemperance with alcohol doesn't just damage his liver, it teaches his children that adults cope through substance abuse. His wife develops anxiety, always walking on eggshells. His kids struggle in school, acting out their home stress. They grow up to repeat patterns, passing trauma to another generation. One person's vice becomes generational suffering. But here's what makes this especially tragic. We often export our worst qualities to those we claim to love most. The executive who practices injustice at work comes home and demands fairness from family. The parent who shows cowardice in confronting their own issues demands courage from their children. We expect from others what we won't give ourselves, creating confusion and resentment. Marcus Aurelius warned, injustice is a kind of blasphemy. Nature designed rational beings for each other's sake, to help, not harm, one another as they deserve. When we live viciously, we blaspheme against this design. We become antibodies in the social organism, creating inflammation and disease rather than health and harmony. The workplace becomes a petri dish for vice transmission. Sarah's foolish decision to chase short-term profits through corner-cutting creates long-term problems. Quality suffers. Customer trust erodes. Ethical employees face impossible choices, participate in deception, or risk their jobs. Those who stay become cynical. Those who leave carry that cynicism to new workplaces. The infection spreads across industries. Social media acts as a vice amplifier. Tom's moment of cowardice, not defending a friend being unfairly attacked online, signals to everyone watching that loyalty is optional. His friend feels betrayed and becomes less likely to trust others. The attackers feel emboldened. Observers learn that standing up for others is risky. Social bonds weaken. Community fractures. All from one moment of choosing comfort over courage. The economic implications are staggering. When executives practice intemperance, demanding endless growth, bigger bonuses, more consumption, they create systems that require exploitation. Workers face impossible productivity demands. Communities lose local businesses to corporate giants. Environmental destruction accelerates to feed insatiable appetites. Future generations inherit depleted resources and damaged ecosystems. Even our private vices have public consequences. Lisa thinks her anxiety-driven need to control everything only affects her. But her children learn that the world is dangerous and unpredictable. Her partner feels constantly inadequate. Her friendships wither because she can't relax and be present. Her coworkers dread her perfectionism. The anxiety she thinks she's managing is actually metastasizing through her entire social network. The Stoics offer hope through their concept of sympathia, universal connection. Just as vice spreads, so does virtue. When you choose wisdom over foolishness, you model good judgment for others. When you act justly despite temptation, you create a pocket of fairness in an unfair world. When you show courage, you inspire others to find their own. When you practice temperance, you demonstrate that enough is possible. This isn't abstract philosophy, it's practical reality. Every choice you make either adds to the world's store of misery or its store of flourishing. You're never just choosing for yourself. You're choosing for everyone your life touches and everyone their lives touch in an endless chain of consequences. As we'll explore in our final section, understanding this interconnectedness is the key to breaking the cycle and choosing virtue over vice. 7. The ancient formula for modern happiness: choosing virtue over vice. After 6 sections of exploring how to maximize misery, you might feel overwhelmed. The good news? The Stoics didn't just diagnose the disease. They provided the cure. For every vice that creates suffering, there's an opposite virtue that creates flourishing. The formula is startlingly simple. Replace foolishness with wisdom, injustice with justice, cowardice with courage, and intemperance with temperance. Simple but not easy. Let's explore how to actually make this transformation in modern life. Marcus Aurelius, writing in his military tent while managing an empire at war, gave us the starting point. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This isn't positive thinking nonsense. It's the foundation of Stoic practice, recognizing what's actually under your control. Your judgments, your choices, your responses. Everything else, preferred or dispreferred, but ultimately indifferent to your flourishing. Let's start with replacing foolishness with wisdom. Remember how anxiety about the future steals present peace. The antidote isn't to stop planning, it's to plan without attachment. Jessica, a startup founder in Austin, learned this after her first company failed. Instead of obsessing over outcomes, she now focuses on process. She still creates business plans, but holds them lightly. I control my effort and decisions, she says, not whether customers buy or investors invest. Result? Her second company is thriving, but more importantly, she's thriving regardless of the company's fate. Practical wisdom exercises include morning reflection, spending 5 minutes identifying what's actually under your control today. Evening review, examining where you wasted energy on uncontrollables. The Stoics called this philosophical journaling. Modern research confirms it reduces anxiety and improves decision-making. You're literally rewiring your brain to focus on what matters. For the trap of instant gratification, wisdom means playing the long game. Delete social media apps from your phone. You can still check on desktop, but the friction reduces mindless scrolling. Implement a 24-hour rule for non-essential purchases. Practice voluntary discomfort, cold showers, fasting, walking instead of driving. Not as punishment, but to prove you don't need constant comfort to be content. Now, replacing injustice with justice. This starts with radical honesty, but honesty with compassion. Tom, A contractor in Phoenix who built his business on deception made a dramatic shift. He called past clients, admitted overcharges, and offered refunds. Many were so shocked by his honesty that they became his biggest referrals. He lost money short-term but built a reputation that created sustainable success. Justice practices include daily integrity checks. Before speaking or acting, ask, is this true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? Practice giving credit generously. When tempted to exaggerate or deceive, pause and choose accuracy. Start small, return extra change. Admit when you're wrong. Keep minor promises religiously. As Seneca noted, every new thing excites the mind, but a mind that seeks truth turns from the new and superficial to the old and profound. Truth-telling becomes easier with practice. For workplace justice, become known as the person who speaks the truth respectfully. Address issues directly rather than gossiping. Share knowledge freely rather than hoarding it. Yes, some might take advantage, but as Marcus Aurelius taught, their vice is their problem, your virtue is your responsibility. Replacing cowardice with courage doesn't mean becoming reckless. It means calculated bravery in the service of virtue. Maria, a nurse in Chicago who was too afraid to report abuse, finally found her courage through incremental steps. First, she documented incidents. Then, she found allies among other staff. Finally, she reported to the authorities. The supervisor was removed, workplace culture improved, and Maria discovered she was braver than she knew. Courage exercises start small. Have one difficult conversation you've been avoiding. Apply for one opportunity that scares you. Stand up for one principle even if your voice shakes. The Stoics knew courage is a muscle. It grows with use. Set weekly courage challenges. Notice how each act makes the next easier. Epictetus, who knew about courage from slavery, taught that freedom comes from facing what we fear. Make a fear inventory. List everything you're avoiding. Pick the smallest item and face it this week. Then the next smallest. Build momentum. Soon you'll tackle fears that once seemed insurmountable. Finally, replacing intemperance with temperance. This isn't about deprivation. It's about enough. Robert, a tech executive in San Francisco, realized his mansion felt empty while his tiny childhood home felt full. He downsized dramatically, gave away excess possessions, and discovered space, physical and mental. I own things now, he says, instead of them owning me. Temperance practices include regular possession audits. If you haven't used something in a year, donate it. Before buying, ask, will this serve a specific purpose, or am I buying a feeling? Practice gratitude before meals, appreciating what you have rather than craving what you don't. Set consumption limits, one coffee shop visit weekly, one new clothing item monthly. Not as a restriction, but as an appreciation. The Stoics understood that virtue isn't solo work. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What brings no benefit to the hive brings none to the bee." Find your philosophical community, online Stoic groups, local philosophy meetups, or just friends interested in living intentionally. Share struggles and victories. Hold each other accountable. Create implementation intentions, specific if-then plans. If I feel anxious about the future, then I'll list 3 things under my control right now. If I'm tempted to lie, then I'll pause and find a truthful response. If I'm avoiding something important, then I'll take one small step toward it. If I want to buy something impulsively, then I'll wait 24 hours. The transformation isn't instant. You'll fail often. The Stoics expected this. Progress, not perfection, is the goal. As Epictetus taught, no one becomes an Olympic athlete overnight. Every choice toward virtue makes the next choice easier. Every vice resisted weakens its hold. Track your progress. Journal daily about moments you chose virtue over vice. Notice how it feels. Notice the results. Notice how others respond. You're not just improving your life, you're modeling possibility for everyone around you. The Stoics promised that virtue is its own reward, but they were honest about the benefits too. When you live wisely, justly, courageously, and temperately, anxiety decreases, relationships improve, work becomes meaningful, and that elusive sense of enough finally arrives. You achieve what the Stoics called ataraxia, tranquility born not from avoiding life's challenges, but from meeting them virtuously. This ancient formula works because it addresses root causes, not symptoms. Instead of managing anxiety, you eliminate its source. Instead of seeking trust, you become trustworthy. Instead of chasing courage, you practice it. Instead of pursuing happiness through acquisition, you generate it through moderation. The choice, as always, is yours. Vice is easy and makes you miserable. Virtue is challenging and creates flourishing. Not someday, today. Not when circumstances improve, now. Not if others change, regardless. Your virtue is your responsibility and your path to eudaimonia. Your choice, flourish or suffer, the Stoic path forward. We've taken a journey through the dark side of human nature, the four vices that guarantee misery. You've seen how foolishness creates anxiety, how instant gratification becomes a prison, how dishonesty destroys trust, how cowardice leads to regret, how excess exhausts the soul, and how your personal suffering spreads like wildfire through your relationships and communities. The Stoics remind us that life is not merely about the avoidance of pain, it is about the pursuit of virtue. Marcus Aurelius wisely stated, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." This statement encapsulates the essence of Stoicism. Our mental landscape shapes our reality. By choosing to cultivate virtues like wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, we can transform not just our lives, but also the lives of those around us. Consider the impact of your choices. When you act with wisdom, you inspire others to think critically and make better decisions. When you practice justice, you create an environment of fairness that fosters trust and cooperation. Your courage in confronting challenges encourages others to face their fears. And by exercising temperance, you model moderation that can help break the cycle of excess in a world that constantly pushes for more. The path to flourishing isn't easy. It requires intentionality, self-reflection, and, at times, discomfort. But the rewards are profound. Imagine a life where you wake up each day feeling grounded, where your choices align with your values, and where you contribute positively to your community. This is the Stoic promise of eudaimonia, a flourishing life rooted in virtue. As you move forward, I encourage you to take small, actionable steps toward embodying these Stoic virtues. Start each day with a moment of reflection, setting your intentions to act wisely, justly, courageously, and temperately. At the end of the day, review your choices. Where did you succeed? Where can you improve? This practice of self-examination is essential for growth. Remember, you're not alone on this journey. The Stoic community is vast, and many people are seeking the same path of virtue and integrity. Share your experiences, seek support, and hold each other accountable. Together, we can create a ripple effect of positivity and resilience. If you found value in this exploration of Stoicism and how to maximize your potential while minimizing suffering, I urge you to subscribe to the Stoic Viva channel. Join us in our quest to make ancient wisdom accessible and practical for modern life. Like this video, share it with friends who may need a reminder of what truly matters, and comment below with your thoughts or experiences related to Stoic principles. Embrace the Stoic path. Choose virtue over vice. Flourish in your life and inspire others to do the same. Remember, the choice is always yours, to flourish or to suffer. Choose wisely.